Good afternoon, Eagles Nation. We're now in the month of June, but Philadelphia never sleeps, and you need to stay alert because the reaction across Philadelphia has been immediate, emotional, and divided after one of the biggest moves of the offseason. A.J. Brown is no longer a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, and while the news shocked many fans, the discussion that followed has revealed something even more fascinating, a growing belief that this organization may have pulled off another calculated move that positions the franchise for long-term success. When you step back and look at everything A.J. Brown accomplished in Philadelphia, it's impossible not to appreciate what he meant to this era of Eagles football. The Eagles originally sent a first-round pick and a third-round pick to acquire him, and over the next 4 seasons, Brown delivered exactly what the franchise hoped for and more. Year after year, he produced at an elite level. He surpassed 1,000 receiving yards in all 4 seasons with the team, becoming the only wide receiver in franchise history to accomplish that feat. During that stretch, Philadelphia consistently remained among the NFL's contenders. The results speak for themselves. The Eagles reached the playoffs every season Brown was on the roster. They won double-digit games every year. They captured the division 3 times. They appeared in 2 Super Bowls. Brown caught touchdowns on football's biggest stage. Most importantly, he helped bring a championship to Philadelphia. There is a strong argument that the Eagles never reached those heights without his presence on the field. That reality makes this trade so fascinating, because while many fans are understandably disappointed to see a star player leave town, others are focusing on what Philadelphia received in return and the flexibility that now exists moving forward. The organization reportedly turned a player acquired for a first and third round pick into 4 years of elite production, a championship run, and then another first round pick coming back in the trade package. From a front office perspective, that's the type of asset management that championship organizations strive to achieve, and that's where the conversation begins to shift. The Eagles now find themselves with additional draft capital and significantly more financial flexibility. The move reportedly creates massive cap savings, giving the organization more room to maneuver in future seasons. For a team that has consistently valued roster construction, depth, and long-term planning, that flexibility could prove incredibly valuable. What makes this even more interesting is that the Eagles appear to have spent months preparing for this possibility. Rather than waiting until after the trade to address the receiver position, Philadelphia had already been building contingency plans. The wide receiver room still features DeVonta Smith, who now steps into the spotlight as the unquestioned #1 target. There is also confidence inside the organization regarding younger receivers and offseason additions who could collectively help replace some of the production lost with Brown's departure. For years, DeVonta Smith has operated alongside one of the league's most physically dominant receivers. Now comes the opportunity many Eagles fans have wanted to see. Smith becomes the focal point. His resume suggests he's ready for that responsibility. Throughout his career, Smith has consistently produced despite sharing targets with Brown. His route running ability, speed, separation skills, and football intelligence have made him one of the most respected receivers in the league. While he wins differently than Brown, many believe he possesses the complete skill set necessary to thrive as a true WR1. The Eagles also seem confident that offensive balance could become a strength moving forward. Rather than relying heavily on one superstar receiver, the offense may spread opportunities across multiple playmakers. That approach could create a different identity, one built around versatility and unpredictability. Of course, none of this means replacing A.J. Brown will be easy. Players with his combination of size, strength, physicality, and game-changing ability are rare. Brown routinely won one-on-one matchups that few receivers in football could win. He could take over games. He could completely alter defensive game plans. Losing that type of player always carries risk, yet many supporters believe the Eagles have earned the benefit of the doubt. This front office has consistently shown a willingness to make difficult decisions before they become unavoidable. Time and again, those moves have been questioned initially before proving beneficial later. Another major storyline emerging from fan discussions centers around what Philadelphia could do with its newly acquired draft assets. With additional first-round capital now available, the Eagles possess tremendous flexibility. They could hold those picks. They could package them in a future trade. They could move up in a draft to target a cornerstone player. They could even pursue established veterans if the right opportunity emerges. That optionality may be one of the biggest outcomes of the entire deal. At the same time, many fans are simply reflecting on Brown's legacy in Philadelphia. Despite the way his tenure ended, his accomplishments cannot be ignored. 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, multiple All-Pro campaigns, playoff success, conference championships, a Super Bowl title. Those achievements guarantee that his name will remain connected to one of the most successful periods in recent Eagles history. The challenge now shifts to the next chapter. Can DeVonta Smith elevate his game even further? Can the younger receivers seize larger roles? Can the Eagles maintain their offensive production without one of the league's most dominant wideouts? And perhaps most importantly, will this move eventually be remembered as another masterstroke by Philadelphia's front office? Or will fans look back and wonder if the team moved on from A.J. Brown too soon? What do you think, Eagles fans? Did Philadelphia make the right decision by trading A.J. Brown? Or will this be a move that the organization eventually regrets? One of the most interesting aspects of this entire situation is that the Eagles don't appear to be operating from a position of panic. In fact, if you listen closely to the discussions surrounding the trade, there is a growing sense that this organization had already accepted that A.J. Brown's time in Philadelphia was coming to an end long before the deal became official. That matters because championship teams rarely make decisions based purely on emotion. They make them based on timing. From the Eagles' perspective, the timing may have been exactly right. The franchise now enters a new era where the offense can evolve around a different structure. Instead of one player commanding so much attention, both from defenses and from the offense itself, Philadelphia has an opportunity to distribute responsibilities across the roster. That doesn't necessarily mean the offense becomes less dangerous. In some cases, it can become even more difficult to defend. Defensive coordinators spent years building game plans around stopping A.J. Brown. His physical dominance forced opponents to dedicate extra resources to him. But now, defenses will have to account for a wider variety of weapons operating in different roles throughout the formation. That is where players such as My Lemon become especially important. The Eagles clearly saw enough potential in him to make him part of their future plans. Alongside DeVonta Smith, his development could become one of the biggest storylines of the upcoming season. The organization also brought in Dantavian Wicks and Maris Brown, while continuing to develop younger players such as Darius Cooper and Johnny Wilson. No single player in that group is expected to replicate everything A.J. Brown provided. That's not the objective. The goal is collective production. It's the idea that several players contributing together can offset the departure of one star. Philadelphia seems to believe its receiver room has enough versatility, enough athleticism, and enough upside to make that possible. Meanwhile, another benefit of the trade could emerge on the defensive side of the ball. With additional resources available, conversations have already started about areas where the Eagles could strengthen the roster even further. Safety remains one position many fans continue to monitor. While there is confidence in the current group, the added flexibility created by this trade gives Philadelphia options if the front office decides another move is necessary later in the offseason. And if there's one thing Eagles fans have learned over the years, it's never to underestimate Howie Roseman's willingness to make a move when the opportunity presents itself. Whether it's before the season, during training camp, at the trade deadline, or even on draft night, Roseman has consistently demonstrated an aggressive approach to roster building. The additional first-round asset acquired through this trade only increases the number of possibilities available to him. That's why some fans are already looking beyond the immediate impact of losing A.J. Brown. They're asking bigger questions. Could those future picks eventually help land another star player? Could Philadelphia package assets to move up in a future draft? Could the organization use those resources to address another premium position if a unique opportunity becomes available? Those are the kinds of scenarios that now exist because of this decision. At the same time, it's impossible to ignore the emotional side of the story. For many Eagles fans, A.J. Brown represented far more than statistics. He arrived at a time when the franchise was searching for a true number one receiver. He immediately transformed the offense. He delivered unforgettable performances. He played a central role in some of the biggest victories of this generation of Eagles football. When fans think back on conference championship runs, playoff victories, and Super Bowl appearances, Brown's fingerprints are all over those memories. That's why reactions have been so mixed. Some supporters view the trade as a necessary business decision that protects the franchise's future. Others see it as the departure of one of the most impactful offensive players Philadelphia has had in years. The truth may ultimately fall somewhere in between. The Eagles can appreciate everything Brown accomplished while also believing that moving forward forward without him was the correct decision. Those two viewpoints are not mutually exclusive. What's undeniable is that the pressure now shifts elsewhere. The spotlight becomes brighter for DeVonta Smith. The expectations increase for the younger receivers. The coaching staff must prove that the offense can remain explosive despite losing one of its biggest stars. And the front office must demonstrate that the flexibility gained through this trade eventually translates into meaningful roster improvements. That process won't be judged in June. It won't even be judged in September. The true evaluation of this trade may take years. Fans will compare what A.J. Brown accomplishes in New England against what Philadelphia achieves with the resources gained from moving him. Every touchdown, every playoff appearance, every roster move connected to these assets will become part of the conversation. For now, though, the Eagles have officially turned the page. A.J. Brown's chapter in Philadelphia is over. A new chapter begins with DeVonta Smith leading the receiver room, a roster filled with young talent looking for opportunities, and a front office armed with additional flexibility to shape the future. Whether this becomes one of the boldest successful decisions of the Howie Roseman era or one of the most debated trades in recent franchise history remains to be seen. There's also another angle to this story that continues to generate debate among Eagles fans, and that's the question of legacy. When emotions settle and people look back years from now, how will A.J. Brown's time in Philadelphia be remembered? The answer is probably much simpler than many people think. He will be remembered as one of the most productive wide receivers the franchise has ever had. The numbers alone make that difficult to dispute. In only 4 seasons, Brown climbed near the top of multiple franchise receiving categories. He finished his Eagles career with 339 receptions, more than 5,300 receiving yards, and 32 touchdown catches. For a player who spent just 4 years with the organization, those totals are remarkable. More importantly, his production consistently translated into team success. Every season Brown was in Philadelphia, the Eagles reached the playoffs. Every season they won double-digit games. The team captured division titles, won NFC championship games, and ultimately secured a Super Bowl championship. Those accomplishments matter. Statistics can sometimes be debated. Championships cannot. That is why many fans, even those who support the trade, continue to express appreciation for everything Brown contributed during his time with the Eagles. The organization achieved some of its greatest recent successes with him as a centerpiece of the offense. At the same time, the front office appears convinced that the future remains bright without him, and that